Hi, this is Activity B for the 7.7D activity on outlining. So you should have already done Activities A, which were on Edpuzzle, and then this is Activity B, so we're going to need a couple things. First of all, you need the actual text that we're going to look at and try to dissect a little bit into an outline, and you need the back of your contract, which looks like an outline. So I'm going to switch to the actual papers. Make sure you have the text that says when disasters happen and the outline. Okay, so now that you have both actual papers ready to go, it's much easier for you to see them on your own paper probably than on the screen. But here's kind of what we're trying to do. And I've started you out with a basic kind of bare bones outline. Partly just to get you started, and then partly for you to notice the progression of Roman numerals and then capital letters and then lowercase Roman numerals and then lowercase letters. So that's kind of the pattern you need to follow when you start doing C and D kind of by yourself. So the first thing you want to do is actually read the paragraph. This is paragraph 1. This is paragraph 2. And that's what we're going to do together. Later on, this is paragraph 3, and there's like one little itty-bitty sentence up here that's still part of 3. And then paragraph 4 is right there. Paragraph 5 you will not have to worry about unless you need more practice. So if you can do 3 and 4, that will be adequate for activity C. But for B right now, we just want to try to discern what the main ideas of this text are, and you do that through reading it and maybe underlining your topic sentences and big ideas. So let's kind of go slow through paragraph 1. During the 1930s, our nation went through a hard time economically known as the Great Depression. At the same time this was going on across our country, many states in the Great Plains region of our country were going through another crisis. There had been no rain for months, which dragged on into years. The weather was hot, the soil was loose, and no crops were growing, and the winds were howling. This region became known as the Dust Bowl, so named for the massive dust storms that blew across the land on an almost daily basis. One of the states that was hit the hardest during this time was Oklahoma. The citizens of Oklahoma actually became known as Okies during this time. So let's kind of look at our sample outline here. And as you're looking at it, I've already kind of laid out for you a topic sentence. So in essence, during the 1930s, the nation went through a hard time. You don't have to write complete sentences for an outline. You just have to get the main ideas in the right order. So the Great Depression is one hard time. And here we don't have a lot of information, but we could say it's a financial hardship. The Dust Bowl, when crops wouldn't grow and things like that, is an agricultural hardship. We don't really need to say the Great Plains region. Like, we're talking about two different types of hardships to prove this was a hard time. The effects from the weather, there's listed about 3, so see if you can find weather effects. No rain for months. The weather was too hot. The soil was loose and no crops were growing. So, no rain for months. Too hot. So it'd be a drought. And the soil was loose from lack of crops. Those are the details about the weather. The wind says it was howling, became known as the Dust Bowl, so named for the massive dust storms that blew across the land. So we could say it was howling wind, daily. We could say dust storms blew across the land. Speaking of land, it mentions our location. So we know it was the Great Plains. And specifically it mentions Oklahoma. So if you'll notice a couple things, we didn't write every single sentence on here, and we didn't necessarily go exactly in the order that they did because we're looking for some main ideas. But within the main ideas, the details we listed were in order. They mentioned Great Plains first, so we mentioned that first, and then Oklahoma. I don't think you really need to mention the Okies thing because we're talking about a hard time, where the hard times were and stuff like that. So look at paragraph 2. While many people in the state and the region abandoned their farms and way of life. Okay, sorry. We're looking for something about residents because I'm telling you this whole thing is basically about the residents. So, while many people in the state abandoned their farms and way of life, just as many stayed and persevered through the tough times and became even stronger. So what could we say? We could say the residents of the Dust Bowl had to persevere to stay. The rest of this paragraph gives experiences of some residents. So let's see what we can find. It says one citizen did these things, many of the homes. Another resident, blah, blah, blah. The survivors banded together and helped each other. So we kind of have 3 different types of residents. We have one resident, several experiences, another resident's experience, and what all the survivors did. I left this blank because I need you to think about Roman numerals a little bit, and if you're not sure, you can look it up. But 1, 2, 3, 5 is a V, so 1 less than 5 is like that. 6 would be V plus 1. So these residents had certain experiences. The first one, their fences were buried with dust. Think about how much dust that would be if you have a fence at your house. Like, that's a lot of dust. 4 years of no wheat growth. Roads were impassable. Like, you couldn't even drive down the road. There was so much dust. And dust covered everything. To be more specific, the second resident says, dust would creep in around the cracks and get into everything. Another resident mentioned that drinking milk became chewing milk because of all the dust in it. So that's a good detail. Drinking milk was like chewing it due to the dust. And notice, not writing complete sentences, you're just outlining. All the survivors, and so the whole rest of this paragraph we talk about all the survivors, banded together, helped each other out as much as they could, and developed a strong spirit of survival. Many of them looked on at the time and taught them valuable lessons how to persevere. So all their survivors, we could say, banded together and give some details about that. They helped each other. Developed a survival spirit. And we could say they learned to persevere. / never give up. And that's basically just an outline. If you think of an outline kind of like a flea map, these are kind of like your boxes. Your A's, B's, C's are like these boxes, and your little 1, 2, 3s are the details under them. So it's kind of the same thing, just a different format, I guess. So once you have this ready to go and you feel like you could explain it, come see your teacher, get it checked off for activity B. For activity C, it's kind of up to you how many main ideas you find in each thing. And you're going to outline paragraph 3, like right here. This one's about another type of disaster, which it says. So you could, for Roman numeral 3, like, what is the disaster? And give details about it. And for paragraph 4, you're talking about damage, like some damage that was done. So you won't have as many details, but you should have them in the correct format and be able to explain it. And not everybody's will be exactly the same, but the big ideas should be the same. So come get this signed off on and then move on to activity C, which is outlining paragraphs 3 and 4 by yourself.